Welcome to the Oso Spurs podcast, where we are unfortunately discussing our first defeat of the season. But will this defeat be the making of Tottenham? We've got to discuss today that incredible atmosphere, whether this is actually a disaster or something to build upon, the inevitable high-line criticism the media have been waiting to dish out, all those injuries and suspension, and what that means for our game against Wolves. And let's not forget, let's have a little discussion about whingy Arteta and how our grown-up manager has shown him up in the recent week. But let's kick off with that game. God, where to start? We could go on all night, but I'll start with you, Deej, as you went on the last pod. But do you think this defeat will be the making of us, or how do you unpack it all?
I think it's certainly something that it's something that will create team cohesion in a way that I don't think we've had in a while, because I don't know, especially like given the way that we played in previous seasons, and then having this experience playing with 9 and still sticking to the principles of the high line, and honestly having a chance to come back and looking the better side after they scored their second goal somehow. That don't know if that's saying a lot about how good we were or just how awful Chelsea are. I have no idea how they managed to be that bad with having spent that much money. But I think it's definitely something we can improve. We can build upon. Definitely like a morale builder. Weirdly, shout out to the fans, I think, for making that even bigger than it would have been otherwise. Because if the fans had turned, like we have when we play terrorism ball, not saying I blame the fans for turning on that, but by keeping the atmosphere positive despite the defeat, I think that sends a very clear message to the players that what they're doing not only works, as you could see by the creating chances. Bentancur probably could have scored. Dyer fractionally offsides. Son on another day finishes the chance. But we had so many chances to bring that game back to 2-2. So yeah, that it's exciting. Also, the first 15 minutes we absolutely blew them out of the water. It wasn't close.
I don't want to sound like Arsenal, though, when they had that season of we outplayed Man City for 40 minutes, do we?
Yeah, but they didn't have 2 players sent off, so it's a bit different.
True. And Stu, I want to talk to you about your favourite man, Destiny, because you predicted man of the match. It didn't go quite to plan. What did you make of the red cards?
To be fair, I wasn't on the pre-Chelsea pod. I did not predict that he was going to be man of the match.
You did,
but you would have done.
You would have done. You would have done.
I would have predicted that Vic was, and he was.
Yeah. Knew that was coming.
I'll give you that. But on that note, Vicario was obviously wonderful, and I think we'll cover him separately in a minute as an individual. He deserves that praise. Probably our man of the match. But Destiny and Romero's red cards.
Yeah.
What do you make of them?
Destiny, he did it twice against Arsenal and against Liverpool, and he had the maturity not to lunge in a second time. And I was hoping that he would do the same thing. But honestly, I don't know what he was doing. I mean, Sterling turned away from him, was going away from the goal. It was just rash. And as was, the 2-footed challenge that, let's be honest, on another day, he could have gone for that one. He could have gone in the first half before Romero even went. So, I mean, it just looked like he was overhyped. And the crowd and everything, it just got to him, and he just lost it, which, I think in general, yesterday's performance, it just showed a lack of perhaps experience in the side, because apart from Son, everyone else is 26 or younger. So I just think it's things they have to learn from. I think, Destiny will learn from it. Romero, on the other hand, he's been doing this since he joined us. Getting caught up and he just lost it. I mean, he was lucky not to go for that petulant kick. And that penalty, I don't think we can say too much, because it was the same thing as the Liverpool player. So we were happy for that to be a red. So I don't think we can complain too much about this being a red either. And I just think as the vice, captain, he should have shown a little bit more maturity. He got wound up, which to a certain extent I even blame the ref for, because the ref let Chelsea get away with a few left legs in on special Maddison and the like. I think Romero thought, right, if that's the way we're going to play, I'm going to start doing the same thing, except he went just a little bit too far, unfortunately.
And it is one of the, I know a lot of people are not contesting it, but saying it's not a red card. Well, come on. It doesn't matter if it's deliberate if you look at the rules. It's, are you endangering a player and are you out of control? And unfortunately, although it wasn't deliberate, those two things were the case. So you can't complain when that one goes against you. But you might get away with that one. And sometimes you do. But Johnny, go on.
Sorry, just to interject. I do think it was a red card. I do think I want to push back a little bit on the narrative that it's like, it's the Romero. He's gone in harshly. If he got sent off for the kick out against Colwill, then I'm down to have that conversation. But I don't think that that the red card challenge was him being rash. It was just him being, I think, a bit unlucky in kicking through the ball a bit too hard and having Enzo there. Especially because it's Enzo. I don't think he'd injured a national team teammate.
As others have said, God, sorry.
I was going to say, I did see someone else. Well, two things. One, if they hadn't looked at the offside, they probably wouldn't have looked at the red card, and he probably would have got sent off. So in the end, they ended up getting a goal, and we ended up player down, so we got double punished. And someone else had pointed out, which they might have had a point, was if it was Micky van der Ven who did that tackle, would he have been sent off? And was Romero's prior challenge on Colwill kind of, they thought, okay, we let you get away with it once, we're not going to let you get away with it twice.
But you make your own reputation as a player over a period of time, and he's always going to put himself in the firing line for these things because of his playing style. But as someone else put, like players like Sergio Ramos and plenty of other world-class centre-backs, you take those red cards as part of their game because they are so good when that aggressive style of play pays off. But it wasn't all negative, was it, Johnny? I think there was certainly some green shoots, some other players. Brendan Johnson can't catch a break though, can he? Every time he comes on, this guy looks incredible. And something happens, a meteor hits the pitch or something, and he's got to come off again. But what were your positives, Johnny, in terms of player performances from that game, apart from Vicario, because we're going to come to him?
I mean, I guess I was fortunate enough to be there first time at the lane, sitting beside our big friend there, Parazzi, in the middle. And it was great to share the game with Si, and it was an amazing experience, to be honest. So, I mean, I know that other people who've been there and even the journalists reflecting on the experience of being in the ground. It was, and I understand, Jim, how you can't bring yourself to watch it, but like there was really, the vast majority of that game was an incredible positive experience, and I do think that that really two individuals cost us the 3 points ultimately, and I think they've been consistently good servants this season. I mean, that's an understatement. They've both been superb. So, like you said, we want them to learn from it. But out from that, really, I don't think there was any negatives. I think the way that we responded clearly to being down two men, especially, was incredible. The fact that the manager is still hailed as kind of our new messiah by the fans. I mean, before the game in the South Stand, there was a big kind of organised gathering to get the atmosphere going. It was really, really rocking there. The vast majority of the songs were Ange based, and the passion, the love for him is immense, and that was continuing, regardless of the score after we were going behind. So for me, my biggest experience, or my most positive takeaway, is that whole thing that Stu mentioned earlier when you're looking at the posts on social media from the players, the deepening, the strengthening of that connection, and the really tangible kind of connection and a sense of optimism, I suppose, about what this team is capable of becoming. And I think we've seen that. I know when I think it was Deej was saying there, but like how well we played in the first 20 minutes or so. Like it wasn't just that we were playing well. Like we were absolutely wiping the floor with them, and I was getting so excited. I was thinking like this could be a serious like whipping for them, and it's kind of ironic that it ended up the other way around. But from my point of view, it shows us, what we can, what gives us a glimpse. I think it doesn't even really show us yet what we can go on to do with the age of these players, the fact that it's only a couple of months with Postecoglou, the impact he's made with the players, with the supporters, and indeed, I think most of the coverage I've seen in the media, even Gary Neville afterwards talking about it, I thought refreshingly objectively about how Tottenham, the scoreline is just such an unrealistic, reflection of what happened. And actually, Postecoglou should be pretty damn proud and happy with what actually happened. I mean, the issue is for us, I think, the injuries and the suspension, especially the injuries. That's the thing that, for me, if it wasn't for Micky getting that knock, I would be so much be feeling so much more jolly about things. You kind of just suck it up and just say it's unfortunate, it's against them. But that's the thing that really leaves the bitter taste in the mouth, and hopefully Matters isn't as bad as, it doesn't seem to be as bad, but I don't think there's any news on that yet. So that's, I don't know, there's a lot to be positive about, a lot to be positive about.
And Si, you were there as well. Was the atmosphere as good as it sounded? Obviously couldn't make this game, unfortunately. And do you agree with Johnny? Are the injuries a bigger blow than result, or the other way around?
So let's deal with the result first, right? That was no more a 4-1 than Chelsea's against Brentford was a 2-0, right? It was a 2-1 defeat. The last two goals, you can just take out of the equation because the players were absolutely out on their feet. Sonny had just missed that last chance, and I think all the air went out of the team, and they hit us with two sucker punches, and that was no more 4-1 than Milan's a bike. Do you know what I mean? But I think that there was what it felt like when we go back to the atmosphere is the connection between Ange, the players, to the fans was so clear. And the noise that was made throughout the whole game, and when we were 3-1 down, I think there was when the Spurs kicked off at 3-1 down. And the place was just deafening. The whole ground was up singing it. You couldn't hear Chelsea. They had just scored a third goal when we started, and we responded to their goal by singing that. And you couldn't hear them. I had a text off a Chelsea mate afterwards who said, gotta say, so impressed with you, in terms of the backing you gave the team, and he was there. He said it was immense. And for him to say that, usually he's just digging me out all the time. But they know that they're in trouble. Really, they know that with 11 men they get slaughtered, and that's why. I'm not angry with Udogie and Romero. I'm just disappointed with those challenges. They were silly challenges for them to make, especially Udogie. That 2-footed one was outlawed about 20 years ago, right? If he'd have connected, he could have done some real damage, and that's disappointing. And he should have gone for that. And if he goes for that, Romero might not make that tackle. I don't know, but Romero had some red mist from fucking minute one. I think he was just running around kicking out of place. Fuck it, come on, bang, bang, bang. He was, he was on one. You could tell that he was on one from the get go. So I think there's some really positive stuff there. I think also, if we look at the positives from some of the players who come on, Dyer had a good game when he come on. Right, and if it wasn't for Micky being injured, with Cootie being suspended for 3 games, I'm like, well, maybe Dyer can do a bit of a job there on that right-hand side with Micky in behind him. I struggle with understanding how we're going to play this high line with either Davis and Dyer or Dyer and another, unless Phillips comes in. I don't know. I don't know too much. Or we play Vic at centre half and we put Fraser in goal.
Yeah, exactly.
Vic can certainly get about the place.
That's not a bad shout. And we're gonna have to come to that one a bit later in the pod because we're going to come and preview Wolves in this game as well. And I think we need to discuss that back line is going to be a key to talk about. But I think there's 2 kind of silver linings. One is the Chelsea fans aren't going to walk away from that victory like you touched on there, feeling like, when you win a game and it turns your whole perspective and you think, it's going to be okay, and you can enjoy your Sunday lunch and think, we're going to be great again, and you have that kind of false sense of belief everything's perfect. They're walking away still thinking, we're still shit. We're still not very good. Yeah. So I did really, really like that kind of side to it. And I think they felt it too. But there was also the commentary from Neville and Carragher. They can't help. They only praise Tottenham when we lose because it's that few. They're back in their box again. I don't need to worry about them. But when we're doing well, it's always, no, they're going to get unstuck eventually. But just to cap off the players in that game, I'm going to save Vicario for Stu. Did you want to talk about the best performer of our team in that
Vic.
Game? But before you guys talk about the best players, could I just one last thing about the atmosphere? I think yesterday showed the players. I think they bought in completely. If they hadn't bought in already, which I'm sure they had, they've completely bought into Ange's philosophy because they stuck to it to the last minute. But I
Yeah.
think they also showed that if they do that and lose, the fans will back him. And I think
Yes.
that is what's created this wonderful synergy between
Yes.
everyone saying, yes, this is the future. No matter what, if we give our all, the fans will love us. Doesn't matter if we lose.
Yeah.
And after the miserable defeats against, the likes of, under the likes of Conte, etc., it's just, I've never felt so upbeat after a 4-1 drubbing. It's it's amazing.
I think I messaged him when he was in the ground after the final whistle. I don't think I've ever felt so proud of this team.
Yeah.
I can't remember a time where I felt like those 9 players left everything on the pitch, every single last drop on the pitch. And if you do that and you come away like we did, then you can't ask for anything more.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's there are some silver linings and green shoots, they say. But I think you touched on it a minute ago, Si. This does leave us, and Johnny, you mentioned as well, that the injuries and suspensions for me, it's more the deflating thing is knowing we go into the next 3 games. One of those games is against City without so many key players. So, Deej, I'm going to throw you this question. What's the back line going to need to look like in our upcoming fixtures now?
Against Wolves.
Have you got your boots?
Yeah, I got a call from Ange this morning. He was asking something about playing center back. I don't know. Yeah, but I am not. Yeah, as we've kind of already touched on, the injury to Van de Ven hurts way worse than the defeat ever could have. Hopefully it's nothing major, but it did not look good in the moment, and I'm just gonna wait until we see what the doctors say, and then multiply that by 2, because that's how it works here. But I think that we're going to see Eric Dyer is going to be definitely our most tenured center back for the next 3 games, and then it's a question of whether or not we see Ashley Phillips or we see Højbjerg, because he played there last game and he didn't look terrible. I mean, I guess, especially for a team, a game where we won't have our backline be pressed as much. Even a game, I guess, where the backline is pressed, because I think Højbjerg's one of his best traits is his passing range. I think that could be a really interesting option against a team like Villa, who look to take teams who build from the back and turn them over high up the pitch. And I think his inexperience at center back could be overturned, could be outweighed by his passing ability. That being said, it's definitely not something I would choose to see if I had the option to do anything else, but it's really him or Ashley Phillips, and I guess it's really up to Ange to determine whether or not Phillips is ready to make that jump. And so I'm not going to make any call. I don't see the trainings. I can watch the U21 games, and I mean, he looks good there, but obviously there's a massive difference between a U21 team and a team in the Premier League. Especially teams like
I think he means
Villa
under 21s and the Premier League, but I'm going to ask Google Translate.
No, I mean what I said. But I can watch the under 21s.
I gotcha.
Oh yeah. But yeah, if Phillips is ready, Phillips is ready. Love to see him play. If not, I guess it's Højbjerg, because I really don't know who else it is. I guess maybe Davies, if Davies is healthy. But Davies is a center back and a back 4. Seems like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no perfect solution. Sometimes it's the best of what you have.
Davies is also going to have to play at left back because we don't have a left back.
That's Royale's job.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen.
Oh yeah, we could put Emerson as center back. Forgot about that.
Yeah. There are a lot of options, to be fair, and fortunately in this formation, you're less reliant on your centre backs being, a centre back in the sense that the ball playing ability helps reduce the reliance on them being good defenders a little bit. As long as they can play out the back, you've got a chance, I feel, in this formation. But Johnny, do you think it's an unfortunate time for Richarlison to go in for surgery as well? Because you'd think if they'd want to have a bit more of a player who's a bit more defensive that can track back, he's an option, or do you think that front he's going to throw back in the same front line as he did against Chelsea?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest loss that we'd we would miss in not having him available. But there's also perhaps, like you said earlier about Johnson being very unlucky, maybe this gives him the chance to, establish himself and get a good run of games. And also, I think you could also see it as potentially an opportunity for Richarlison to kind of reset and maybe just take a bit of the pressure off him. I think up front we've still got Heel there as well. Jackie's just been amazing. Like, I thought Jackie was one of our best players the other day as well. His work rate when we went down to 9 was outrageous. But he did that again. So we played against somebody else the other day. And were we down? What, did we get another guy sent off recently? Yeah, it was. We did.
It's Luton.
Yeah. And Kulusevski was doing an amazing job there as well, like just holding it up and buying time and just running his legs off. So we're quite well off, I think, up front, as Sonny clearly as well. So I don't think it's the worst time. I think obviously it's at the other end of the pitch where we have the issues, and I'm assuming that Sessegnon's, I know he's kind of a name that we've forgotten. Is he still injured?
Yeah, long
He's out for a
term.
while.
I think he's out till
he's
out till Feb after that surgery.
Yeah.
It's outrageously unlucky, isn't it? The left side is.
But he has got salt and vinegar hamstrings, hasn't he? So
he does. Yeah. Fortunately, though, our next game against Wolves, they've had the 5th least shots in the league, and they don't have a natural striker that you feel, my gosh, we're in deep trouble here. I think we know that we will concede. But if you can outscore them, going back to good old school Harry Redknapp type football, we can win this 1-4-3 still. Might well be the mentality there. But Sai, do you expect any other shake-ups in the team or surprises against Wolves?
Well, I think you'll probably see Bentancur maybe start. I think that could be an option. He came on with a bit of a cameo last 15 minutes or so. I think he did really well. He looks smooth again. He looks like he's getting back into the run of things. And I think that centre half piece. You're right. Dyer's a shoe-in. He's the only centre half that we've established centre half that we've got. And then, but whatever you've got there, unless it's Phillips, but I don't know how Phillips plays. I don't know enough about him. How quick he is. He may put Phillips in if he's quick, just to cover him behind, because neither Højbjerg or Dyer are particularly mobile, and it's not the ball playing out that worries me as much as the pacing with balls over the top, And if we were playing City with 9 men, that would have been 6 or 7-1. They know how to play that. They'd have been playing into that space against that high line. I think if it was against Man City, I don't think Ange plays as high a line as that either. He knows how crap that front three are, and the amount of times they ran offside or the balls were too strong and went out of play, it was embarrassing for them. It really was. It really was. So I think that could be another change in the middle. So the rest of the team doesn't worry me as much as the back line. We're going to have 3 out of the 4 strong back 4 that we've had out of the game. Or does he go to a 3 at the back? It's not Ange, but could he go for a 3 and push up the wing backs? Because then you could play Dyer, Davis, and Emerson. You could play Emerson on the right, Dyer in the middle, and Davis on the left of a 3. He doesn't. He hasn't played that in the past, as far as I know. But would circumstance force it? I don't know.
Stu, I mean, Vicario, who you had obviously put forward as someone we should be all over, you were excited about us signing. He's used to this, though, right? He's come from a relegation candidate in Serie A, so we at least have a goalkeeper who's going to be used to receiving pelters and being peppered constantly.
He's the 2 seasons that he was with Empoli in the Serie A. He was, I think, most shots faced by any goalkeeper in the league. So he's used to getting peppered, and as he showed against Chelsea, he's pretty good at it. And it's going to be obviously for the goalkeeper and defense. It's all about creating the relationship, isn't it? And it's going to be difficult now with, as Sai said, 3 new out of the back 4. And Davis, I don't know if he's going to be fit. So that's going to be difficult. The thing I was surprised yesterday was seeing that Dorrington played and Phillips didn't, because from what I've seen, Dorrington's better ball playing than Phillips. But I don't know if that's because obviously, what do I see in an under 21? And as I think someone pointed out, the football is very different. The speed is much different. They have a lot more space. So maybe in training he doesn't show the same as Phillips does.
And maybe that's a bit of Phillips there then, Stu, is that he's got the experience from Blackburn in the Championship, which is a very physical, pretty fast-paced environment. And maybe that's giving him the edge over Dorrington, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I think, he is used to men's football. I think he was promised when we signed him that he was going to be a first-team squad player. So I think, that will give him first dibs, and maybe Dorrington will be on the bench. I'm sure he'll probably get a run out. And in midfield, I don't know if Bentancur is ready to play 90 minutes yet, but I did think that Bissouma, again, it's difficult to judge with 9 players, but it didn't play great, I didn't think, yesterday or day before even, or the previous game. So I don't know if that's something that, is something also to look at, but it's I don't know. Andrew's going to have to come up with something. It's not going to be easy, that's for sure.
I want to kind of pass that one to Udogie, because I think Udogie, I noticed by the tone in the WhatsApp group, you may have felt the same as me, that Bissouma had done nothing really wrong. He was just a middle of the park player in that game, but there was a lot of criticism he received for being the weak link almost in that team and being made out to be the problem. When I was looking at Romero, like you guys touched earlier, saying, you're vice captain, you're not a kid, you know how important this game is as a derby, just don't get sent off. And you go and get yourself sent off. Potentially you would have been sent off twice in the same game in terms of the rash decisions you made. But did you think Bissouma's holding back a bit because of that yellow card, Deej, at the moment? Or do you think it's the system? Why do you think it doesn't look quite as... I think we have a high bar for him, though, as well, don't we?
Yeah.
I definitely think that there is an element of him not wanting to get another yellow. Especially once we go down to 10-9 men. Like, there's no point in making a doing something like Udogie did, and I guess that's you can say that that's holding back, but I'd say that that's more or less experience. I think potentially, I don't think he had a bad game at all. I think he did what he needed to do. I think that it's really hard for him to play the position the way that he wants to play it in a team with 9 men, because he does most of his positive work on the offensive side of the ball through carrying, and it's really dangerous to carry the ball up as the deepest lying midfielder when you have 9 men. When you have 11, there's obviously way more leeway, especially when one of those people, when both of your center backs are off, you've got 2 people who aren't used to playing center back, at least not this season. And yeah, I think he kind of was boxed in to a role really early, and I think he kind of did that as best as he could. So I'm not gonna jump too harshly on him. I think it'll be interesting to see how he plays against Wolves, because I would rather him get a yellow against Wolves than a yellow against Villa. I'm not saying that I'm not scared of Villa. I think that game will be very difficult, especially with the pace they have. And the lack of pace that we will probably have in our center backs. But obviously, it's Villa, and then it's City. And
kind of, I guess, looking forward a little bit then at this situation, Johnny, looking at January, we need to limp through to there, and I think we'd probably all take 2 draws and a win out of the next 3 games just to get through and get some players back, wouldn't we? But in January, do you think we now need 2 centre backs? And after the centre back position, is it still left wing the most important to you? Based on what's happened, I think it's been a good eye opener to, and I'm going to go back a little bit here, that you don't get better, you don't improve through doing the right things. You improve through making mistakes and doing the wrong things and learning from it. And I think this whole team is going to get better as a result for that. But it also gives a chance to look at the real fragilities of our squad. So where do you think, Johnny, do we now need 2 centre-backs? Does it make you think like that? Do we now need to bolster up any other positions on the pitch, given how many players are missing at the moment?
I think we're just incredibly unlucky with what's happened right now, and I think we have to be realistic, and Stu's usually the one who keeps us sort of tempered and focused and realistic when it comes to the money side of things. And
spend 100 million!
Think, exactly.
100 more million!
if we're going to get a couple of players in, I don't see us getting in two centre backs. Maybe if you're playing a computer game, then that's what you do. But like, we definitely obviously need one who can do a job, and whether they have Premier League experience or not, I don't know. I mean, Tosin seems to be the one that I don't know much about the alternatives, to be fair, but he's obviously used to the Premier League, and I don't know what's happened with Monaco's interest in him, but that would seem to be, maybe from the budget point of view as well, maybe something that might be realistic. And obviously, like, Tottenham probably are more attractive proposition to good players now, having seen what's happened so far this year. So I think that other than the centre back position, for me, I'm going to big up Stu here, because the last time we kind of talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and I was kind of persuaded by what he said after I spoke, and it was really the need for a goal scorer, because I do feel that if something happened to Son, and I really wish I hadn't said that out loud. Shit, I'm sorry, guys. No, nothing's going to happen to Son. Then we've said many times, where are the goals coming from? Like Sai said to me the other day when Decky scored against Chelsea, like, that's what happens when you take a shot, and like we've been talking about that. There aren't a whole lot of goals coming from too many other sources other than Sonny. So that for me is probably something that, in terms of actual results, is maybe more of a need, because I don't know, looking at the winger's point of view, Johnson and Kulusevski and Heel and our wing backs are the whole system. Like, there is a lot of support and mobility up there. I don't know if we necessarily are massively in need there the way we would be in those other two positions. So for me, that I think we need a goal scorer, really, to be honest, in case something happens.
Do you think that's? I think that's why Johnson was brought in, because you add 10 to 15 goals a season with him, and then you've got Maddison pitching in 10 to 15, and then you've got your striker pitching in. It's Son, so maybe you're 20, but 10 to 15. Then you're okay. I think this has exposed the fragility of, you lose one of those, you're not going to be walloping teams 4-0, because you just don't.
No.
You just don't have enough firepower in that front line to, and I think that's why up until now we haven't really walloped anyone. We're even convincing wins with 1-by-1 goal, because it's always the same two players that need to deliver those goals for us.
We got 5 against Burnley, didn't we? Apart from that,
if that counts, but yeah. Just going to wind up Stu there again. God, you're popular tonight, Stu. Did anyone else have, before we go on to score predictions for Wolves, anyone else want to add any other topics on this?
So for me, if you're talking about recruitment in January, I don't think we need 2 centre backs, but I think a good pacey left-sided defender that could play left back or left centre would be a good addition, because then you can rotate out between the 2 left-footed players if you need to. And I think that as much as he's nowhere near first choice, Dyer for the rest of the season could do a job if he had a pacey defender around him, because where he gets exposed is when he gets turned and when he's having to track back. So for me, that's there. In terms of the front line, I'm not sure. I'm not totally convinced about a striker, because I think where we're struggling a little bit is the contribution from the other midfielders. So you've got Maddison scoring from midfield, but Basuma doesn't score enough, and Sarr doesn't get close enough to the goals as well. Bentancur might give us some of that when he comes back into the side, because we know that he can take a shot. But I think Johnson gets a run in at that left spot, and I think what we saw in that first 15-20 minutes from Johnson, he looked outstanding. There's a talent there, and if you look at that goal, who was it against where it was offside? It was his first game where he brought it out of the sky, brought it down, controlled it. Sheffield United and absolutely buried it. You don't do that unless you're a decent player. So I think there's a player there. I think Kulusevski, get your shooting boots on again, mate. I don't mind him cutting inside and having shots from there. I'm all right with that. But do more of that. Do way more of that. And then you've got Johnson coming in on the back post. So, but I think that, a left-sided, pacey defender is what we need there. You could do something up front to cover Son if that's the case, but I'm not sure that's a critical position for us at the moment.
Yeah. And we do have Valise, I guess, as well, and we don't know. Like, he has come on for a few minutes here and there. So
South
you've got to
American
trust in
Andy
Ange,
Carroll.
haven't we? We all trust in Ange. So.
You've gone early on that one, Jim. South American Andy Carroll.
Sorry, Stu. Sorry, mate.
I was gonna point out that it's awful what's happening with all the injuries, and I mean it's an absolute nightmare. But on the other hand, if we ever wanted these players to get a shot, they've got 2 months to kind of make their claim
Yes.
for the place in the squad before the window opens.
Yes.
So the likes of Gilles, hopefully he'll get a run out, and we'll see how he can do. Because if he can play on that left wing, that means Johnson can play on the right, which means then we can have more rotation between. Kulu can get a rest. I think Sai, you're spot on with Bentancur coming on. He does add goals, which neither Sarr or Basuma do, which is a worry. I think the biggest worry as well, apart from Son, is if Maddison, whatever injury he's got, if it becomes something more serious, replacing him is also going to be really, really. He is not replaceable. Certainly not for 50, 60 million. So that's going to be a problem. But I think centre back is key. Who is going to be a big question, because that Kelly that we were linked with at Bournemouth, apparently he's regained his slot, and Bournemouth are refusing to sell, and the likes of Bayern and Milan apparently are waiting until January to get him to sign a pre-contract. I think it's. Sorry.
Okay, no, you go. Finish.
I was going to say, I think it's going to be difficult, but we do need a centre back, and I agree that someone at left back for Destiny, because as much as we love Davies, I don't think he does fit the Ange tone. But I think striker, left back, and centre back are the three that need to be resolved. But I just don't think we've got the money to buy 3 players unless someone gets sent out.
Depends who goes, and I think but then I would argue on the other side of the equation is our best signings have been like Vicario, like 14, 15 million quid. If you find 3 players of that level, that's an incredible January transfer. Big ask. But if the reports say Ange has increased the scouting network with these new people to leagues that he had worked in the past, in Japan and in particular, around Asia, there's a lot of young talents. And if not even young talents, you can find players that fit the profile of what we need. And it's hard to get someone to leave in January. But if it's someone saying, this is my one chance to go to the Premier League, and 15 million quid to this club is a ton of money, we'll get those players. So I think it will be about trying to find those hidden gems in other markets and other countries. I think.
Jim, quick question then. Do we regret letting Sanchez go after the deadline day?
But then
at least the geezer had a bit of pace about him.
He did. But then that 12 million quid's going to go back in this January, so I guess it depends how we spend it.
I get that.
But it's not. People have said it before. That 12 million quid already bought the Croatian lad.
Yeah, but now we can borrow 12 million quid in advance for the next one, so it kind of just goes forward, doesn't it? Yeah.
Do the classic loan with obligation to buy, like we seem to do with everything now.
Yeah.
Also, in terms of buying players from lower leagues, I don't know, Jim, if you remember when we were talking about Lange, we had a bit of a conversation about Villa's chief scout, Rob McKenzie, and how he was the one who brought in, who was responsible for a lot of Leicester's success, bringing in players from lower leagues. We did end up getting him as well. He is on his way to Tottenham to continue his work with Lange. So
that's really good
that
news.
is hopefully a sign of good things in terms of shopping in leagues that clubs don't generally shop in.
Yeah, and very data driven. I've heard that setup that they had at Villa was really data driven in order to identify the targets, and then back that up with Ange saying, "Listen, I absolutely have the last say on whether someone comes in or not," and he says, "I don't give them 3 targets, I give them 1."
Yeah.
I thought it was. Sorry, lads. I thought it was interesting that when they're bringing up the database, Rob McKenzie and Lange, we're going to bring in, that Ange himself said he's got his own database.
Yeah,
and
he does,
knew
doesn't he? Yeah.
about Vicario before our scouts had brought it up to him. So should be interesting.
We didn't mention though, just before we go, because we need to jump to score picture set. One other thing, Arteta, you're a petulant little child.
Yeah.
The thing that gripes me the most about his approach of I will do anything to defend this club and basically give stick to anyone who doesn't agree with me, even when I know I'm wrong, is you just create hatred, you create toxicity, and you put a lot of pressure on people who are innocent in a situation. So you've got a country which is complaining about not having good enough officials and trying to encourage more people to go into officiating, but can't because of all the abuse they get. And you're saying, no, if they get it wrong, stand on your feet and abuse them and give them as much crap as possible. You're a horrible little Lego-headed weasel. You're an absolute knob. And I hope you fall on your sword as soon as possible and everyone finds you out. Like I said before, you are Kevin off The Office. Your boss, everyone thinks you're a genius at the moment, but one day you realise all the analogies about cookies weren't analogies after all. You were just talking about cookies because you're an idiot.
And the hypocrisy of it, Jim. So you go back 5 weeks to when we played Liverpool, and he's in the press going, listen, you've just got to suck it up. Referees make mistakes. We shouldn't be here to put them down. We've got to support them. It's a difficult job, blah, blah, blah. And then he gets what are 3 subjective. There's been loads of debate about whether it was a foul or not. I think it was a foul. I think it should have been ruled out. I'll put that out there. But there's loads of ex-players that are saying that's not a foul. So that in itself is subjective, right? So and then he's whinging about that and saying what he's saying compared to what he said 5 weeks ago. Just suck it up, mate. Get on with it. Have the quality of Ange where he just says, listen, we've got to cop it. If we're going to go in and play tough and hard, we're going to make mistakes. If we take a red, we take a red. Get on, get up, we go again.
Yep. He's a
quality, mate. Move on.
Yeah. The other thing I thought was interesting, and was sort of been coming out in the press over the last sort of day or so, was the impact of the VAR delays on the VDV injury. And like, it does make a hell of a lot of sense, doesn't it? Especially the way he plays. The fact that there's like, especially the delay there was with the penalty and the Romero red. Yeah, like, so you've got to say there's probably quite a strong link between that and what happened to Van der Ven.
And I think,
I
think the issue with
Ange isn't coming out and comment. Sorry, no, Ange isn't. Ange is just such a what can you do about it? Like, we've had those 2 Italian managers, and Portuguese and Italian manager, who we were just they didn't reflect well on the club, and now we've got somebody who it's like when we had Pochettino, I guess. They are a good figurehead for the club, and they do speak sense and they are respectful. It does make a big difference.
The VAR thing, Johnny, I think is it's a different question, or it's a different thing. It's to your point about the length of time that some of those VAR decisions took is the criminal thing here, because I don't think they got any of the decisions wrong. I think the decisions that they came to with the VAR are probably the right decisions in the end. Yeah. The fact that the referee missed a few of those and the on-field decisions were wrong is almost a bit of the flip side of that. But the fact that to Ange's point, didn't the strikers used to get the benefit of the doubt? And if you're taking 4 minutes to draw some lines for an offside, it's not clear and obvious. So go with the on-field decision. I think in the group today, I can't remember who was posting. I think it might have been Adam. It was in there about the NFL, where they have a rule, and Deej, maybe you can elaborate on it a bit more. If they can't make a decision in 90 seconds, they go with the on-field decision. That seems to be a really reasonable thing to do. Yeah. If the video ref can't see it after 90 seconds, which if you're stood there on the ground, 90 seconds is still a long time. Yeah. If you can't do that, draw 2 lines within 90 seconds, then maybe the benefit of the doubt goes with the attacker, and away you go. Or you automate it, because it's a yes/no decision. You can automate that.
Yeah, we could have, because we had that vote at the beginning of the season,
and we decided not to take it.
Decided not to. That is genuinely one of the things that has given me the most it gives clubs a thing to complain about. Honestly, like, that's the only reason I can think of that you wouldn't vote for semi-automated offsides, because it worked really well at the World Cup. Like, it's not like it's an untested product. It's been used on the biggest stage in world football, and it worked fine. And it cut down on the timing a lot.
And then maybe without VAR reviewing every single thing and flagging it to the ref, maybe we flip it around like they do in rugby, where the referee asks for a VAR review on a certain situation. Mm-hmm. Right, there's been an issue. I've seen something here. Is there any reason why I can't give that goal? Is there any reason why that's not a red card offence, or whatever? And then you hear the ref conversation, rather than VAR checking every single thing and trying to get down to this utopia of 0 mistakes, which is never ever going to happen, because there's so much subjectivity in the rules and there's so much vagueness within the rules. You're not going to get there. maybe you flip it around a little bit and give a little bit more authority back to the officials on the pitch so they can get some respect back. Because at the moment, the players are just pushing for all the shit that they can.
Well, as Ange says, it's diluting the referee's authority and power.
Absolutely.
Anything can be overridden. But we need to skip forward to to predictions and quickly whiz through those 30 seconds. But I also want to use the chance, if you're a regular listener, we want to engage with you more and be able to read your questions out on the podcast. So when each person's going to read out their score prediction, they're going to start by quickly giving out their Twitter handle as well, so you can engage with us, because we'd love to chat with you. So mine's Jim Oso Spurs, all one, and we're going to end the podcast there. So so at Jim Oso Spurs on Twitter. Stu, you haven't had a chance to get a word in for a little bit, so you can start off with the score predictions and plug yourself in there.
Tough one. It's Wolves, right? I think that Ange is going to come up with a miracle. I don't think we will change formation. I think Ange is very much going to die on his sword. And whoever he brings in will have to play the way he wants them to play, which could lead to a few scary moments, a few hiding behind the couch. And I think it doesn't matter because Johnson will actually get on the field and stay on for 90 minutes. He's going to score one. Kulu's going to assist for the sunny winner, and we're going to win 2-1.
And your Twitter handle, if anyone wants to
my
follow
Twitter
you?
handle is Oso Spurs 2.
Cool. Deej, over to you, mate. Score prediction and you plug your handle.
Righty. I am worried about this game. I'm worried about the next 3 games, obviously, because we have 0 out of 2 center backs. And those are, last I checked, those were kind of important for us. But I think we will be able to score still, because I think most of our, assuming that Maddison is healthy, all of this prediction is based on Maddison being at least serviceably healthy. If it's Lo Celso instead, I don't know how much that changes, but it definitely changes something. I think we will concede. I think we will concede at least 2. I think we probably should concede more. I think Vicario will probably bail us out of some. I'm just so worried about Wolves running over the top of our high line without the pace of Van de Ven. I think it's not a death sentence, but it's Van de Ven. Like we've talked about so much this season, Van de Ven kind of enables the high line system to work as well as it does. And while the high line will still provide us with goal scoring opportunities, I do still think we'll win the game. It will also, without someone with the pace of Van de Ven or even Romero, because I think any of the options we have are Romero speed or slower. I can't speak to Phillips as well as the other players, but I think that there will be more opportunities there. I think that we will, and I think we'll win 4-2. I think we'll win 4-2. I think Johnson, I'm hoping Johnson will get on the score sheet. I think Son will have a brace. And then I think Bentancur gets his first goal of the season.
And your Twitter?
My Twitter is Koi's DJ.
Yeah. Johnny, mate, go to you.
So I don't know if you can. I was really bad at my tech. Can you see that? I wrote down. No! Come on, I've got a new camera.
2-1 win.
Son and a blowjob.
Yeah, blowjob. I wrote that down, and then
that's
then
not
Stu...
2 words I want together. Son and a blowjob. But anyway, come.
Is that better than a win or not? I wrote that. That means Brennan Johnson, you filthy man. I wrote that down, and then Stu said it. So we're obviously, Stu and I are in the same wavelength. I mean, looking at Wolves, they've scored two goals 3 times. It's not like they're not banging in the goals. They've got Neto as a danger man for them. He's made 7 assists this season, which is a lot, and he's out.
Yeah.
So that's a big loss for them. I mean, I don't really. It's a pretty good game to be going into with these problems. So I would be quite confident that we will win. I hope it's not by 1 goal, because that's always a bit scary. But yeah, I think we'll win. So I'm going to go with 2-1 as well. Brennan.
And it's at Cali Spurs for you, isn't it?
At Cali Spurs, yes. Up the Cali Jags.
Si, over to you, mate.
Yeah, this is the first game where I'm not going to predict a win. I'm worried about the centre back. I'm worried about it's the first game that they're playing together, and I think the manager up there is savvy enough to really exploit that. So I think that they will be they'll sit quite low, invite us on, and they will hit us on the break time and time again down the wings, and they'll be cutting in, and that's where there's danger. I don't think we'll lose. I think I'm going to go 2-2. But Van der Ven is the key. We come back to it. He not only allows us to play a high line, he allows us to play a super high line, which pushes the midfield up another 5 or 10 yards, which allows us then to play that fast, intricate interplay in the middle of the park to unlock those defences. So that's my worry. I think it's 2-2. I think that Sonny gets another one, and I'd love to see Johnson get a goal as well. So for me, regrettably, it's 2-2, and the handle is Bestie Spurs.
Good stuff. And I'm going to be with you on that side. It's not going to be a win. I'm going to say 2-2. I just think we're bound to concede 2. I just can't see us quite scoring 3 or 4 at a game yet, especially if Maddison's not fit. So I think 2-2. And to be honest, I would take that. I would take coming out of Villa, Wolves, and City withdrawals. So just keeping in the race, getting those players back and going back on a winning run, signing a couple of players in January, and becoming the most hated club in the country by Neville and Carragher again, because we're overperforming. So yeah, up the Spurs, boys. Roll on Wolves.
Not you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
You okay, Bender?